myth, the legend. No. Nissim Black in the house.
Hey.
Shalom.
How you doing, holy brother? Well, my mother was a rapper. My father was a rapper.
Seattle?
In Seattle. They also sold drugs. This is why I started first in Islam. Yes. I'll be straight up with you. Black pays are very hard to maintain. I like to break the internet for multiple reasons, but I would like to break the internet. Everything is about, like I said, elevation, that everything should go from darkness to light, that the show is going to be tonight. I don't know. You got I was going through a lot also too. My kids couldn't get into school. They were told because of the color of their skin. I was very much so, it wasn't like it was just out of nowhere. Like I came here looking for God. Like I'm on team God. I'm on team God. And
Okay, you don't keep loud.
DJ, let's rock.
Good afternoon from Beit Shemesh, Israel. So today we're going to be meeting a really cool and unique and special individual. He is Jewish. He is a successful rapper. He's Hasidic and he's black. So we're about to meet Nissim Black.
Hey.
Shalom.
What's going on? How you doing, holy brother?
Good, thank God.
How's
How are
it
you?
going? I'm doing all right. Oh, how you doing? Oh, what nice blue.
Thank you.
Like
Thank
it,
you.
Like it. How's it going?
Wonderful.
Huh.
So,
What's going on? Welcome to my humble. Now, the truth is, I know a lot of people say this, but when I say it, it's real. My cleaner lady called in sick today.
okay.
So you get a little bit of my Shabbos aftermath.
Okay.
Shabbos aftermath.
So this is the family?
This is some of the family,
Hello.
some of the kids. This is three of the kids. Three of the kids are not here. Yeah, this is the Black Estates.
Okay.
This is after Shabbos. You want to see my after Shabbos dishes?
Sure.
From today. You know, got some fish thrown out. I'm a fish guy. I eat
Yeah.
fish. I can eat fish 7 days a week.
You prefer it over chicken or meat?
I prefer it over chicken meat.
Is that like a health thing or just taste?
No, I prefer fish over chicken and meat.
Nice view.
Yeah.
So how long have you been living here?
I've been here now for going on 4 years.
And do you have like a studio or something in the house?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see it?
Go to the city?
Yeah.
For sure. Let's go. This is the humble abode. And this is where it all happens.
But first, a word from our sponsor. So, you want to book a kosher vacation. Sounds easy, right? Not always. You want to be within walking distance of kosher restaurants and synagogues. Plus, you just might need a car rental for those harder to reach places. Introducing Vakazi.com. Simply visit the site and enter where you want to go. Then you enter when you want to go. Go ahead, hit that search button and allow Vakazi to work its magic. Vakazi.com will then show you the best hotels and how close they are to the synagogues, mikvahs, and those delicious kosher restaurants. That's right, all the information you need in one place. It's really that simple. Visit Vakazi.com and start planning your kosher vacation today.
So
It all happens.
it kind of looks like halfway like a besmedrez, like a synagogue, and the other half is a studio.
So what happened originally was this was my Hisbodedus room.
This is where you like
My
meditate and
This is where I
pray.
meditated. This is where I would talk to Hashem. Obviously, I didn't need any soundproof or anything for that. I had candles here, even when this clock was. That was like another thing for candles. I had, different things like that. So I had a shviti, I had a stender here, and this was my room. I came to get away from everybody. Reb Nachman was really big on all of his students having a room where he went to go meditate, to go talk to God. So this was my room for that. What happened was 2020 happened, Corona happened, and they were going to do a big Sega here, a big shutdown, a big quarantine, whatever. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to travel to Yerushalayim every day to go to Suda. That's what I was doing before. I learned for a little bit in the morning, and then I was going.
You're recording every day?
Every day, almost every day, a few times a week, maybe 3-4 times a week. I was going to Yerushalayim. Because
Really?
if I wasn't recording, I had to mix songs, and I was going to my guy Jonathan Friedlander over in Yerushalayim. So I had a major problem. I wasn't going to be able to do anything. I was going to be shut down. How was I going to record? So I had to go to all the different studios, Halalit, and all these other places to go get it soundproofing. And I turned this whole place into a studio. and that's the reason why it's partly like a base midrash and also like a studio at the same time. So, and I think for me also too, the two things go together, because even when I'm writing music and I'm trying to get another picture of Baba Saleh here.
Oh yeah.
He's handling all the hashgacha here inside of the studio. Make sure. See, I have him facing the computer.
So it's under his
Just in
supervision.
case. So everything's under his supervision. Even with the filter, I have the Baba Saleh here.
That's awesome.
So this is like my this is like my place. I have a little piece of Baba Cherebi over there. Chacham Avadia made it back into the place just in case I need any shilas.
So, question for you: as we walked into the studio, I noticed soft music playing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more of a soft music kind of person, or you like the beat?
It's a very good question, because I'm really both. My daily preference alone is soft music.
Really?
Soft music. That I've been like for a while, but I remember after I had Corona, I don't feel like my brain has worked the same. I've had to deal with like anxiety. I get worked up very easy. So I usually am playing soft music. What I found is like, I found a lot of these clips, relaxing videos of water and different things like that, as you see. And those things kind of get me, they calm me down a lot. They really, really help me. So I'm a soft music guy. I love to create an atmosphere that when I walk into the house, I can already be in that calm, that I have a safe place sort of to be. So I love that. In addition to that, that's, I listen to most of the people I probably listen to. Most is like Zusha, Yosef Carduna, and Shlomo Katz, and and Yishai Rebo. I'm probably like one of the biggest Yishai Rebo fans. It's usually the opposite of my music, but somehow when I go into music to make it, that's just not what comes out. That's not what comes out of me. My whole Indian is I think I take it and then I turn it into fire type thing. And this is what comes out for me.
Okay, so now that you mentioned Yishai Rebo, any chance there's going to be a Nissim Black Yishai Rebo collab one day?
Me and Yishai have been talking about it. We've been talking about it for a long time, actually. For a while, this has been on the table. We're going back and forth. So every once in a while, I'll send him something. We'll go back and forth to see if it's a vibe and different things like that. So I hope so. He's very, very into the idea. He wants to do something. I want to do something. I think it's gonna happen eventually. We just gotta find the right track.
I feel like that would like break the internet. Like,
yeah.
Two of you together, wow, that would be something special.
I'd like to break the internet for multiple reasons, but I would like to break the internet.
But it's also like the styles are so different.
Right.
Like how would his audience relate to it, and how would your audience? It would be very interesting to see.
I think that's always the thing for me is musically, I'm always up for challenge. Like I love the challenge. I generally would like to collab with people that people would say like there's no way that they made a collaboration. Like
right.
I worked on a song with Zusha. Hopefully it'll be finished very soon. But I like that idea of being challenged, of feeling like there's no way, everybody tell me no way it can fit and it's not gonna work or whatever, and just like, okay, I'll show you. And I have no problem, because I feel for myself that I know Hashem gave me a lot of different gifts and a lot of ways that I can work that people have not seen everything that I can do. So right. I don't mind going into, Yishai Rebo's world. I can go into their world. I can go into MBD's world. I can go into anybody's world, I feel like, and find a place and be able to carve out something. So I'm always up for that challenge.
And when you're doing these collabs, are you like going into the studio with the other person, or you kind of like they record their thing, you record your thing, and like right. keep the energy separate? Today,
usually most of the times I record and do collaborations are usually not in the studio together. I used to really like that energy, but now it's like, having your own studio after a while, and because it was forced upon me by the circumstances. In the beginning, it was like so hard. Like I have to record myself. I have to press all the buttons. I have to go back. It was like very, very difficult. But then, like afterwards, I got used to it. So now I don't like even recording anywhere else. But my idea is to eventually move the studio out of the house, have a bigger space where I can actually be in the studio collaborating with people, because I think sometimes you do miss that, that input from somebody else who's there that has some completely different idea, and then you like able to add in that whole, the natural creative juices that flow when people are together and they're coming from different worlds. So that is a dream, but most of the time these days, everything's like in a different place.
I know for a fact you've told this story so many times, and I don't want to make you go through it again. I know it's a long story, but can you in 2 or 3 minutes summarize who you are, where you came from, and where you're at now?
I am Nissim Black. last time I checked my ID. It's very interesting. I call myself more than a performer. I think I'm a spiritual motivator, more than I am this performer. And what that includes performing and the music as well.
Totally.
And even the speeches.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, my motivations are different than when I was a young kid making music. I recorded my first professional song when I was 13 years old, So from then until through 19 when I released my first album, and even a couple of years after that, started releasing more like mini albums or mixtapes or whatever. At that time, like I was consumed by the music, I grew up very much so in the hip hop world. My mother was a rapper, my father was a rapper.
Seattle?
In Seattle. They also sold drugs, and I joined the family business very early, as I always joke and say. I was dealing very early, 12 years old already. I was smoking pot at 9 years old. Even.
Really?
The truth was, it was just a product of my environment. This is what was going on. And hip hop at that time was the soundtrack for life, First Tupac and Biggie, and then moving on. I think the biggest rapper by me was Jay-Z for a long time. I think Jay-Z was my guy, for a long time. And then Kanye came and he offered creative outlets for me as an artist to look at things differently than what I would have done, because in that world, I always had a nice voice. So I was always afraid to sing because if I sing, then I'm not a rapper anymore. You know what I mean? Or so I always had this scary thing, but Kanye came and started doing creative things. So I think that kind of, he to some degree freed me a little bit as an artist.
And this was Kanye like of 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not like Kanye today, because now he's doing some really creative things on a higher level.
Yeah, he's always been a little bit crazy, but it's always the way that he approached things was much more different and out there. And I think even Kanye from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, was like it was in a completely different world completely.
Do you think he's in a better place now or then?
I don't know as much because I will be honest, I haven't really listened to Kanye so much these days.
Right.
I'm just being honest and speak. I stopped listening to secular music. Even before I came Jewish, really. Now, here and there, I've heard stuff because I'm out or I hear about things, but like actively been an active listener of like secular music has been, wow, very, very long time. So maybe a little bit over 10 years, 12 years. So every new thing I've heard from Kanye has been in passing, or somebody, I'm riding in a car on the way to a gig and somebody says, have you heard the new Kanye? That put it on for me. So I'll hear that he's making crazy stuff. And I think from the little bit that I heard, he's just as genius now. I think he may even got even crazier, but even better in a good way than he did, 20 years ago, whatever.
Are you wearing Yeezys?
I'm wearing Yeezys. Okay, I'm wearing Yeezys.
Good for you. Very nice.
I kind of, there's an issue. I don't know if you want to take a look behind you, but my wife also think I had
wow.
a problem.
You got a collection. Are they all the same black ones, or you have?
No, they're different. I have two pair of these ones, and then I have some white.
That's
it's
great.
for the concert. They're very comfortable.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
The thing is, they're very comfortable.
Before we get back to your story, quickly, I want to ask you. You said you mentioned that you stopped listening to secular music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you didn't grow up Jewish,
Right.
so you there was literally part of your life and your upbringing, as you mentioned.
Right.
And then you're on this journey. When, I understand you've been through numerous religions,
Right.
so you got here. So what was that journey like?
So religious-wise, I started first in Islam. I was a Sunni Muslim. My grandfather was a Sunni Muslim.
Parents?
My parents were not religious.
So he just kind of like grandfathered in.
My grandfather, what happened was he came to live with us. Now, he had spent most of his life in prison, my
Okay.
grandfather. And he came home for about maybe a year and a half, and he lived with us for a good amount of that year and a half that he was out on parole. And while he was there, he taught me Islam. That was what he knew, and that was the only really. And my parents really didn't really care so much about it. They, wasn't like they weren't so involved in God and that whole thing. So I prayed with him 5 times a day. He taught me Arabic. I used to make certain blessings. Even before I ate, I would go with him to the mosque as a kid. And when he ended up going back to prison, from that point on, anybody asked me, I would say I was a Muslim, even though I wasn't really practicing. By that time, I was back in the streets, getting expelled from school, running with the wrong crowd, joined the gang, the whole everything.
But that's what you identified with.
Yeah, but that was what I identified with. Mm-hmm. So when I was around 13, I started getting stronger with it. I don't know what happened. It was like this major breakdown I was having. I had a friend who invited me to go to this hip hop program that was at a Christian community center. So that gave me a great deal of exposure to Christianity. Now, before that, I had an uncle who was a pastor and things like that. So every, once in a while, once in the Easter or Sunday school, I would go, but that was only for the food. But I didn't really I was a kid, so I didn't really get into. So when I went there as a teenager, 13 years old, it was more so like a safe haven for me. Nobody really talked about God too much or whatever. You just seen healthy relationships. I seen it was a better place than for me at home with all the things I was dealing with, and it gave me an outlet for music. So that's what I did. And during that time, I really got very, very, I started to feel a major emptiness, major void. And I felt like even then I was cognizant for some reason that void was God. So naturally, knowing Islam was the religion that I knew before, I had an uncle who was also Muslim. And so I started, talking to him more about God. And he got me more involved in praying and all that. And he encouraged me. So after a while, this Christian place, they ended up saying to me, do you want to go to camp? I went with them to camp. It was like a missionary camp. And I went. So powerful. I'm not going to lie. It was very, very, very powerful time.
What kind of Christianity was it?
It was evangelical, regular evangelical.
They have some very powerful prayers. Like I was once at the White House, and for I think it was the National Day of Prayer, and President Trump is calling up different religious leaders from so many different groups, and evangelicals, when they get up, they can really work up a crowd. Even if you're not part of their religion, you can feel the passion that can take you on a journey.
It can take you on a journey. I mean, you talk some of these guys, the way they speak, the music, everything that it starts. Now this is the biggest thing. With all these motivational videos and different things like that. And they even get into myself, or you're talking and you hear this music behind. The church has been doing that for years, knowing how to work up the mood. So I ended up going to this camp. A powerful speaker. He would speak. At the end, there'll be music, and while he's talking, then he'll give questions. You go back and you're really sedated almost off of what you just heard, the content, plus the music. It was a beautiful time. And for me, it was the first time I was able to step out of my situation from the inside and look at it like, this is dysfunction. Maybe there's more to life. So I ended up
your personal life was
my personal life.
Yeah, okay.
Just like growing up inner city kid, used to seeing the things that you were seeing. So I ended up converting to Christianity, which honestly, I still say saved my life. I think that time saved my life for where I was headed and where I was going in life. It was a very big plus for me at that time. However, I get into high school, you go through all the motions as a high schooler. I'll shorten it a little bit because it will be forever, but going through all the motions as a high school, trying to be religious, and somewhat I was very, very strong and got very stark as a Christian Bible thumper. I was reading my Bible every 5 seconds, and I had a lot of questions, but in the evangelical world, generally, it's not so scholarly enough to answer your questions. If there's something inside the Bible, but when it goes to deeper things, then it's not really, you're more so pushed to believe things by faith, just believe. Which I understand that at some point it always gets that way, but I felt like these were answerable questions. But they didn't resurface again until after I got into it with another artist years later, after I my whole Christian thing had waned. I lost my mother to an overdose, and it was a very hard time for me emotionally, spiritually. And what happened was, maybe a year or so after that, there was another artist, another rapper in that world who made a song about me. And at this point, I was making completely secular gangster rap. I completely fell back into that world for multiple reasons. One in particular, but there was multiple reasons. And instead of making a song back, we ended up, the altercation got really bad, and we ended up going to fight and going to fight this guy at a nightclub. And that ended up with a friend of mine trying to take his life. And he didn't get him, but he ended up in prison, and they thought I sent somebody to kill them, and they were going to come kill me if I didn't go retaliate, if I didn't go do it first. So after being in that type of situation, I broke down, and I realized for me that this is, it's not just gangster rap. It's not just like, this is something where if you flirt with these type of things, then eventually, then they actually come true. You'll actually be in a position of where, you could be losing your life or taking somebody else's life. So that was too hard for me. So I started praying. And after I kept praying and spent a lot of time, I ended up getting a call from the other guy. We squashed everything, which that was a miracle in itself, because nobody ever calls you. So after that, I stayed home. I did a lot of self-introspection and a lot of walking around, just staying to myself. I didn't really go out so much. I just stayed home. I became a homebody. And in that time, I started praying. And then eventually I started reading the Bible again, picked up like I never left off. And I was reading, going very, very deep and watching things on YouTube. And then I started to realize, I had a lot of questions when I was younger. Why didn't I look them up for myself? came across a lot of things that discuss the origins of Christianity and different things like that. That to say in the least, I just discovered that at the origin of both Christianity and Islam was Judaism, you know? And I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, and the more and more I grew in it, it just felt like this is the truth that I'd always been looking for.
Right. So, in what year did you convert to Judaism?
So I converted to Judaism officially in 2013.
Okay.
So almost 10 years ago now.
And that was back in Seattle?
I was back in Seattle.
And then you ended up here in Israel. And when that happened?
So the truth is, I moved to Israel 6 years ago, but it was in my mind and in my heart to move from the moment I could. You know, I was a Bible thumper, so Tanakh was my thing. I learned Tanakh. Who doesn't want to be where everything happened? You understand? So thinking about it before, like, you know, we don't learn so much Tanakh, Navi, and different things like that in yeshivas these days. But a person that you know was a thumper, Bible thumper, like it's very hard for a person who especially converts to Judaism, who came from the Christian world, to not want to be in Israel, because you're so connected, you feel such a connection to the land because you've been reading about it for so long and it means so much to you. So, you know, I always say, like, people give up everything that they can in the world to move to LA when they want to be the biggest entertainer or actor or music, or to fashion. They'll move to Paris or New York. They'll sleep on couches, whatever they can to get their big break. So in terms of spirituality, Israel is a place where it's just like, that's what you do. You know, you move to this place when that's the most important thing to you. You know? So. Yes. To them, all white. So generally, sometimes I perform, if I know I'm gonna do like a full concert, like an hour and a half, something like that, and usually I start off in all black, and then I change halfway through the show in all white.
What does that represent?
So that just, what it represents really is just that in the beginning, everything starts with darkness, and then we go to light. So when, in a case like this where I'm doing like a shorter set, I'm gonna be speaking tonight, but I'm also gonna be doing a concert, I do both. So I keep the pants black, but then I wear a white top, you know? So I try to do something that's a little bit, but I stopped performing in like this regular Hasidic lavush. I wear like a bekisher, something like that with a hoodie, but I started to feel like, you know, it was so hard, like to like strain, you know, like you're trying to like maintain something to be yourself, but you're not being yourself, because myself is hot. Myself is very hot,
right?
And I'm schwitzing, and I'm not making music like everybody else. So why pretend to act like I'm okay being up there like that? But outside of that, I feel very uncomfortable.
Right.
Not to have on my lavush. I feel very uncomfortable when I'm on stage. I need to be able to run around and get loose, you know.
Sure.
So that's sort of my thing. So I wear like a hoodie. I wear some, you know, a bekisher with it.
So tonight, all you're bringing is the sneakers?
Tonight, no.
Oh, you got a whole bag.
I got a whole little bag over here, man. A little bag of goodies. You know? So usually.
So what's on the menu?
So what's on the menu? Not so much. So I just keep, you know, always got to keep your saree kal with you, because, you know, you never know how it's going to end up when you. I'll be straight up with you. Black pays are very hard to maintain, you know?
Yeah.
Not so easy to do black pays. Okay, very honest with you. Curls are very tight. You gotta do something. You gotta keep some extra cream, something in there. So always keep some extra cream to make sure that, you know, I'm gonna be on TV, whatever they're filming me tonight. So I gotta make sure that the everything's there. Yeezy's gotta have some pair of shoes to run around in, you know.
So you got the white pair. With the black pants?
White pair. These are Cloud, with the black pants. We're gonna go with the black pants, not the white pants. Usually have the white pants. Then on this side, for sure, I have a white bekisher.
Okay.
It's wrapped up over here. I know how to wrap it to where it has the least amount of wrinkles, so I don't want to unwrap it.
You can get like a portable steamer.
Really?
Yeah. It's
I gotta get one.
Like $100 and you'll look like straight out of the cleaners.
And then I have like a white hoodie here that I usually wear, thin white hoodie, very thin, so I can catch my breeze at the same time. So I wear that underneath. And I have the tzitzis that, you know, I don't wear outside anymore because they're too dirty. So I wear them underneath because I don't want to go without my tzitzis. So I wear them underneath. And that's pretty much it for this show.
Okay, and the white bekisher, is there any symbolism of like Yom Kippur, purity, any of that? Everything
is about, like I said, elevation. That everything should go from darkness to light. The spiritual elevation that I want. That when people come out, one of the biggest things about being a performer is that when you go out on the stage, you're leaving a very, very big impression on people, right? So there's no doubt about it. Like whether you know what you're doing or you don't know what you're doing, so everything at that point becomes that people are locked in on you. And the way that I perform generally is that I use a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm doing it, and I don't want that anything should be lost from the show. So meaning that if I move my hands a certain way, if I do certain things, and generally if I'm in a place, usually concerts are very dark venues or whatever, and you move your hand a certain way, people all the time not gonna see it. I'm a black guy, you know, so sometimes it gets hidden in the dark. So I think the white sometimes offsets that for people to be able to see. You know, the movement, it keeps, it's easier for people to follow you around when they have spotlights on you, different things like that. But I think overall, just the white was just a better look for me because of that, the spiritual aspect to it. You know, I wouldn't say necessarily Yom Kippur, but yeah, definitely. I think there's more spirituality to wearing white, and it elevates things that people, you know, generally wear dark clothes.
So where are we going?
Right now we are going to Rishon LeZion. I have a show there, and I'm also speaking. A lot of kids who are in public school, which, you know, I hope to inspire a lot of them. I don't know what I'm inspiring them to do, but hopefully they'll be better people. So we're gonna go there, do like a rehearsal run through of the talking part, and then do a little sound check, and then after that, we'll do a concert.
What time is the show?
The show is going to be tonight. I don't know what time.
Okay.
Shows, it's showtime. I never know. I always say I have a thing where, you know, my job is to go, and my manager's job is to know. Hello. No! Get out of here! You go. That's crazy.
I love this boy. I love this guy.
Wow. You don't know what to say.
It's a miracle of this week, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Hello.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
I see you.
Thank you. Okay, so we just got to the event here with Nissim, and he's going in to the stage area to do a sound check.
I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Nissim Black in the house. Mormon, what do you want to tell our friends, our brothers and sisters out there?
Shout out to everybody in Brooklyn. This is the man. I'm so excited to be here.
Am Yisrael.
Chai.
That's right, David.
Chai.
That's right, David. Peace out.
Have a good
Okay, you don't be black.
How you doing, man?
Great to see you. I'm so glad you're here.
Boy, he just told me this is your thing. I know we talked about it, but
This is it.
You
are changing here?
Are you changing here?
I'm taking off my...
Oh, we were so worried about it.
No.
Okay.
So I'm here with Nissim, and we are backstage at this show that he's going to be doing tonight. Kind of hot here. I'm not sure how he's still wearing all of his gear. You excited?
I'm very excited. This is crazy. It looks like it's going to be an amazing audience, huge stage, a massive production here going on. So I'm excited.
Okay, so there's just one question that I've wanted to ask you for a long time, and that is that before you came along, there were other people who tried to do, ultra-Orthodox or Hasidic Judaism while being in the hip-hop industry or the rap industry. I don't want to mention any names, but a bunch of people have tried this, and nobody's been able to maintain both of them at the same time. Eventually, one of them fell to the side. Why do you think, or do you think, that you can successfully balance these two?
So I think that for me also too, I was very scared in the beginning. And the reason why I was very scared was because I just don't want to lose my religiosity. First off, I retired originally. I thought I retired when I was starting to begin my conversion. So I retired, and then after some time, I realized that this is really what I should be doing, to use my talents, use my gifts that God gave me in order to bring people close to God, to make God's awareness known in the world. So for me, you have to realize that was my whole entire mission going into it. I wasn't thinking about, I didn't care anymore about being Mr. Famous or being any of those things. I came back because I felt like I was being obedient to the call that was going on inside of my heart. And, from many different sipurim, I had a broken microphone that started working miraculously. I talked to rabbis who encouraged me to start making music again. My wife was pushing me, even though I was strongly against. And the reason why was because I seen exactly that. People can't hold on to both of these things. One either falls, as you said, or the person loses, that which is dear to them, which I think is the relationship to God. So for me, I never wanted to. So in the beginning, and I think even up until, recently, like people would never know about this about me because I seem so confident and I'm so whatever. And at points, there are times when I was more confident than others, but always never lose that fear. I think that's the key to success, is always knowing that you can fall off at any time, right? And if you don't put the proper boundaries up and get down, then you will fall off. I've done things in my career that I wish I could take back. One of my biggest songs, for instance, Motherland Bounce. I don't like that song. Everybody else goes crazy over that song. I don't like it.
Why not?
It happened for me at a Tekufu. I had a lot of people who, my inner circle kind of changed, and everybody had my best interests at heart when they were encouraging me, to make the music and to different things like that. But it wasn't my MS. It was who everybody said I was supposed to be, And when you get in a circle, a lot of times around a lot of people who's pushing you gotta do, and nobody had bad intentions. Nobody was trying to destroy me or try to make me do something that wasn't me. They all thought that, when a person sees, a person's black, Hasidic, they come from the type of lifestyles, like everybody has, you're supposed to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're supposed to be, if I put those two things together, then it would be like this. So for me personally, I feel like I had to jump into something, and I went forward and I tiptoed through that whole entire process. And I kept on saying, "You're sure?" And my wife said, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" Like different things like that. So I feel like sometimes, and it's very hard, but I know the difference. What was I doing then? And I was able to take that mistake and say, like, what was I doing? That his Bodhisattva wasn't as strong as it was. I had people, like I said, that were around that didn't understand my world. I had people that was around me that didn't understand my world and where I was trying to go. And I was trying to really, in all out, I was trying to do more outreach and reach out to. Now the truth is, on the back end, I see that it was a beautiful thing that it happened because it reached so many people that I would never been able to reach. You understand? Because it happened, but I had no control. I had no control of the video. I had no control. I was with the record label. I didn't have control on the way that things went for the promotion of it. And so for me, that put me in a place where I realized that, this could be very dangerous. So put me back in that place of fear. So that was very good for me. And obviously had a lot of time to think. When I was in the hospital, I got sick with Corona. And I started rethinking everything. And I started realizing everything's always going back to the root. So I got away for a little bit. That I spent a lot of time in his Bodhisattva, a lot of time in personal prayer, self-introspection. And I feel like I'm back making exactly everything I needed to. But I wouldn't even be able to make the records now had I not had that tekufa of feeling like I'm out of my element, sort of like so.
So just to follow up on that question, how do you know now what the right thing to do is? Because as you said, sometimes you feel like something's not the right thing, right, but then it reached so many more people than a different track would have reached. So how do you find that balance and know what you're willing to do to reach people and where your boundaries are? Was like that's too far out of my vision.
So the biggest thing is like this: is always knowing that I have to be looking for Kol Hashem. I have to be looking for God's voice in everything, right? So that's the biggest thing. So the reason why I say that is because like this: although I did something, and after the fact, I could see that it had a big effect. I still perform this. I won't not perform it. I'd see people like it. I'm not gonna take it down or anything like that because that was a tekufa where I was in life. I was going through a lot also too. My kids couldn't get into school. They were told because of the color of their skin. I was very much so. It wasn't like it was just out of nowhere. It was frustration, but that's wasn't the way I would have approached it my way. But anyway, So I think the thing is looking for Kol Hashem, and a person has to recognize in themselves it's impossible. Not only to be in music, this is in any world, any career. And just to be a person that's focused, a spiritual person, especially a person religious, whatever word that you use, a person that's searching for God in life, if you don't have self-introspection every single day to really take accountant of how you are, then for sure you're going to be doing a whole lot of things that are not right. Now, because God loves us, he can turn all those things into good. And that's the way that it works.
Okay, so I've learned so much from you today, and I have many more questions, but I want to try to keep it as short as possible. One question that's still pressing on my heart is, as somebody who is Black, and this is like a whole other discussion, are Jews white or not? But primarily in the world that you're living in right now, in the Haredi ultra-Orthodox world in Israel, most of the Jews tend to have lighter skin.
Right.
Did you feel accepted right off the bat, or was that a process? Are you still feeling, maybe some animosity, or people don't feel comfortable with having you around? What's your take on like racism and all that stuff?
It's a good question. So there's a lot of questions packed into that one. But I will say like this. As far as acceptance, I felt a lot of love, but also too, one thing that I have that a lot of other people don't have is celebrity, right? So by the time I came to Israel, I was famous even though I didn't know I was famous yet. Hashem Elech had just came out, it exploded. By the time I landed from my Aliyah flight, they're playing Hashem Elech in the airport. It was like a whole big thing. So even by the time I moved and I got into Meir Sharim, I would walk into a shop in Meir Sharim and see Tolas Aaron Chassid playing my song Million Years or something like that. So I felt that love. However, my kids had to go through it much more than I did, Nobody knew who they are, my wife and different things like that. But I've also talked to enough Gerim or converts who were Black who never experienced anything. They had no experience at all, And I've talked to a whole host of other people who've had horrendous things that have gone through them. So I think, it's each person has to go through that. And me personally, so I can't say that I have a klal on what racism is like in order, because I know too many different people that had different experiences. But being somebody who's experienced a lot of love, and I would say even a minimal amount of racism that I have. And sometimes the racism is coming from a place where we have a problem. I would say that the overall problem that the world has, and I think ultimately the focus has to be within, is that we have a problem accepting anybody. You know what I mean? Anybody who's different than us, who doesn't come from the same background, or doesn't grow up in the same type of neighborhood as us, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, whatever. So when I started to see that those were going to be issues, I was prepared for not being accepted every place and different things like that. But all in all, most of the places that I wanted to be, I've been able to be accepted. I didn't feel anything. But my kids, like I said, on the other hand, they have to deal with things, and I don't know what it's like to be like them. So that put me in a place of being more overprotective, because everywhere I've been as a kid, everybody's looked like me. Right. Or a great deal of, in my circles I grew up, but my kids are growing up in a place where it's just them, with their cousins, and right. It's them, And so I've always had to be very sensitive to that, because I don't know what that feels like. So I find myself being overprotective of that a lot of times. But because of that, I think it's helped them to grow. My kids don't really feel that they're not connected to racism like in America and what they should think, and that they have no connection to that. So their everyday experiences are their everyday experiences, and they don't look for something more deeper than that. So they take it as face value. If this person doesn't play with mine, go play with somebody else, So that's a very good thing. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It for sure exists. But the thing is how you deal with it and how you combat with it. And I would say that overall, if I was to give a summary of my whole entire Jewish experience, I would say that the love that I've experienced is way up here, and the amount of hate that I experience is way down here. So,
are your kids do you feel they're in a good place now, like in a good setting?
Yeah, moving to Beis Shemesh was beautiful for us. It was good in so many different ways. Yerushalayim is beautiful, but Yerushalayim is fire, and you could be burnt. So it can be a very hard place to live, no matter what your color is, no matter what your background is. So Yerushalayim has its challenges, and moving to Beis Shemesh For us, it was good. There's a lot of English speakers there in Olive. We didn't end up moving to Olive, but it was good for us because it's more spaced out. There's something more that I'm used to. Spiritually, for me, it was much better. It was hard for me being in Shloime. I felt very pressed. The kids felt very pressed, and I seen a certain calmness happen once we moved out with the whole entire family. So it's been very good for us.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you want to get into this again, but on the question of racism, with the racism that you did experience in the Orthodox Jewish community, do you think it was specifically like racial, like people genuinely had a problem with the fact that you were black, or just because there are so few black people in the Orthodox Jewish community that people are just not used to it? Like, do you think it's like malicious, or do you think it's just people just are not used to having black Jews around?
I think it's more so people just not used to having people around, and nothing felt deeper than that. Like, you know, when a person, you know, the experience, I'm gonna say somebody part of the KKK or something like that. That's a deep-seated racism. They think, you know, obviously they have all type of ideas that you're below them, you're less than human, whatever the case is. Like KKK, it's a different thing if you're not whatever, or you know, Aryan people. But I think the difference is that it's something that's different. Anything different, you know, in certain sects, I would say by certain groups, not everybody, but in certain circles, anything different is shunned and pushed away more than anything else. And some people have said to me like, wow, you've changed my opinion on black people because I grew up thinking of them a certain way. And like I said, I know it's not 100%. Anybody that's American at least has a different response to it than somebody who grows up who's Israeli. Israelis don't really generally have a stereotype of what black people are like in America. You know, generally not in the Haredi circles. In the non-Haredi circles, for sure, they're very aware of typical stereotypes, but they happen to be very big fans of the culture for some reason. But as far as the Haredi, they don't know from that, so they just see something that's different. So the kids are gonna call you out your name because you're different. You know, they just see something that's different. So a lot of that took a while to get used to, also to, and to realize that even though it hurts, and this may make me feel or my kids feel a certain way, it's not that deep. And once these kids see you playing, they go, oh wow, you know, it's just another Jew. So a lot of that has to do though with education. Like at this point, everybody's still in survival mode or something like that, and the education needs to be, you know, when you see books of kids coming, you know, Yetziat Mitzrayim, and you see a Haggadah that's showing the Exodus from Egypt, why does everybody look like they came out of Me'asharim? You know what I'm saying? It's a big problem. It's education, you know. And then every time if I open up you know, one of the Yiddish books that shows an example book, house, kitchen, whatever, when it gets to Goy, it's a black family. So if you understand, I've seen that many times.
They still do that?
Yeah, still do it. So you understand the problem that so when I'm at the store and this little girl goes, you know, Tati, you know, why is this Goy dressed like a Jew? She, in her head, this is what she was taught. And the father, which I heard him say, was like, no, this is a Yid, he's a Chashuva Yid, he's not a Goy, you know, and he took that time to explain. But there needs to be from the education level that there's Jews in many different, and it's not only for me. How do they feel about, you know, the Sephardim, Teimanim, the Ethiopian, other Jews that have more melanated. So it's one of those things I think from the education level needs to be there. But all in all, if a person, you know, depends on what they came for. I'm so confident that I came here looking for Hashem that this doesn't faze me that much. Like I came here looking for God. Like I'm on team God. I'm on team God. And I'm so positive of that these things they're so small. Even when I see what's going on in America with that, like from I understand that from a person who don't do God, I can understand that these things, but the person that does God, like I'm on team God. He's on my side. I'm not too concerned about these things. So it doesn't mean that these things don't hurt and a person's not human, but the more and more time that a person spends with God and you receive that spiritual validation, the less and less you're worried about what's going on in the horizontal relationships, as long as the vertical one is straight.
Okay. And last question, if there was one message that you had to impart to the world, my audience is very diverse. We go from Hasidic people who tell others that they're not on the internet to more modern Orthodox Jews to non-Jewish people, many Christians and Muslims, people all over the world. What is the one message that Nissim Black has to share?
My one message is that God is real, God is here, and more than anything else is that I think especially in this time right now where there's so much conflict, so much everybody's at everybody's throats about whatever it is, and nobody realizes that you hold a good amount. I'm not gonna say all, but a good amount of your most people's opinions is because it depends on which news station they were watching, you know. And I think that it's sometimes that it's very good, especially now, to get away from a lot of these things and to be able to go deeper, go inner, to find out what it is that I hold as true. What do I really feel about things, that I'm not gonna let other things. And I think that when a person gets there in that deep discovery, they're gonna realize that there's a God in the world, and he's running the world, and that he loves the world. I want to reveal God's love in the world with all of my music, and I want to reveal a path to be able to express that love and to go back to God with all of my heart. So I think that's my biggest message in the world. Team God.
Okay, so the show already started. Nissim is davening mincha in the dressing room. So Nissim's family just showed up. They're here to see him perform. Show starting. Nissim, you ready?
Yeah.
You look so calm. So, this was about to go up. What's going through your mind right now?
Right now, there's a lot of excited kids out there that I have to go and be mashpia, and the only thing I am is I'm morphing into Nissim the rapper. Nissim the rabbi's over right now, it's Nissim the rapper.
What Yeezys are going on?
I got the cloud white Yeezys that got a little stuffed up in my last video shoot. That's what we're going with now. And we're changing from the all blacks to the blacks. The truth is, I know they have like all this status, and I'm sure they're like probably good, but I just need a comfortable shoes, you know? My toes need to be comfortable. And if my toes ain't comfortable, then nobody's gonna be comfortable. So
There's a balance.
it's a balance.